you tell us a bit about how accountants can really achieve 90% conversion rates from cold leads, that'd be great.
Hi, Rob. Thanks very much. So I think the first point to remember that, it is actually possible. I think as accountants, a lot of us, we know our subject very well, but when it comes to marketing and selling, it tends to be this gray, scary cloud that we don't know too much about. And because we don't know much about it, we're kind of repulsed by it. But actually, when you follow processes for anything in your business, in your life, it's probably going to work better. And the same is true for selling. For myself, having been a chartered accountant, coming through that same route, first time when I got into my own business as a coach, selling, and in the research that I did over the years, really realizing there's a process and a step-by-step process. And the process we identified consists of 5 main steps. And when you follow these steps, step by step by step, it gets to a specific result. So 90% conversions might sound impossible, but from personal experience, I know it is possible by following a process.
Great, thank you. And you talked a bit about in the past about little touches. I mean, what do you mean by that, and how effective can making little touches be?
Good question. So I believe that between all human beings, there is I call it a trust bucket. Now, when I meet somebody brand new for the first time, there is a trust bucket, but the trust bucket is empty. And when the trust bucket gets filled up, then there's more trust, and the more likely we are to interact, trust each other, and I'm more likely to buy from somebody that I trust. And if I trust them fully, I would give my life for them. So between myself and another person, there's always a trust bucket. With a new prospect, the question is, how do we fill the trust bucket as quickly as possible? And as much as I say it's a very simple process, it is a simple process, but most of us, it's so simple that we ignore it or don't even realize it exists. But a way to fill a trust bucket very quickly is to create a number of small promises and then do what you said you're going to do. Keep your promises. So as some examples, let's say that a lead is generated. Now, whether that lead comes from a referral or from networking, or it's from telesales, whatever it is, here's your lead. And right now, between you and your lead, there's this empty trust bucket. And if we can build a number of small steps, so for example, on an initial touch, let's say from a telesales person, they make some promises. For example, Mr. Prospect, we agree this appointment's in the diary for you. But in the meantime, we'll send you something in the post. We'll send you a questionnaire in the post. We'll send you an email confirmation. The accountant will give you a call and introduce himself. A number of small promises. And if we actually keep those promises, the next day they get something in the post they receive. They receive this questionnaire. They receive the email test or confirmation. The accountant actually calls him within a few hours to introduce himself. And by keeping those little promises, and if we build a number of touches like that throughout the process until we eventually meet up with them, then the trust bucket at a almost unconscious level gets filled pretty quickly before we even get to meet them for the first time.
Great. And when you're with a new prospects, how important would you say are the listening skills in the whole process that you take them through?
I believe that listening is a vital part of relationship building and also selling and buying. When I go and meet with a prospect for the first time, I believe that as humans, we like to feel that we're engaged, and we love it when other people listen to us because that shows that they're really interested in us. And the more I believe that someone else is interested in me, the more trust I give them. So if I go into a sales situation, then ask a lot of questions and then keep quiet and let the other person speak. And therefore, I believe that listening is vital from that perspective because it builds trust, but also it helps you to identify and figure out where this person is at, what they're looking for, and their needs. So I believe it's totally important, yeah.
Great. And for many accountants, there's a kind of big cloud of mystery around the whole sales process. And what would you say are the practical steps that they can take to get over that?
I believe it's like most things in life. If you're faced with an unknown, then I reckon one of the starting points is do as much research as possible. You know, if selling is a concept that you don't particularly like, some basic questions. How many books have you read on selling? How many training courses have you been on? And if your answer is 5+, great, you're on the right track. And if it's less than that, you know, simply do the research, gain the knowledge, study the subject, almost in a way like your life depends on it. Because you think about how many years we've studied accountancy, tax, whatever it is, it's literally years and years and years of that. How much time have we spent on learning the skill of selling? If for most of us, that's not a lot of time. Yeah. And yet selling is what brings the business in through the door.
Absolutely. And what would you say, what's your top tip for standardizing the sales process?
Good question. I reckon, you know, as basic as it is, because a lot of what I teach is going back to basics and foundations. If you simply took a piece of paper and a pen and just jotted down subheadings of, here are my steps in my process, that is a fantastic starting point. Because a lot of us haven't yet even done that basic exercise of writing down what are our steps. And yet once you write down the steps, you can look at it and say, okay, what else can I do to improve this? Or I can show that to somebody else and say, what might you do to improve it? Or if you have multiple people in your organization that are selling, compare notes. And without a doubt, your process will improve just by doing that as a basic starting point.